Hey, and we're live. It is Monday, July the 27th. Getting further and further into this thing, right? Believe it or not, summer's going to be almost over for those of you that are educators, even if you're going to teach on a virtual level. I know my wife is a teacher, so eventually, here, I think after this week, she'll be back at it doing that virtual thing. Speaking of which, I got to give my shout outs here. I'm going to start out number one, Grow Live Nation, Ken Walls and the Grow Live Nation. Number two, Jeffrey Gittimer and his emerging sales winners. And then number three, Peachtree Corners. That's where I hail from. It is the peachiest place on the planet. Trust me. That's about 25 miles north of downtown Atlanta here in Gwinnett County. Glad to be here. An outstanding place to live. Great place to raise a family. Everybody's peachy here. And even Technology Park, I'll give a shout out over there as well. Well, all my virtual brothers and sisters, right? Let's talk about something. What have you been doing with yourself here of late? We're kind of getting into the swing of things. Some of us will soon be going back to school. How is your business doing right now? How are things out there in the real world? Anybody want to chime in? But I thought about a quote and I put it out earlier today. I was on my deck having a cup of Joe, sitting there just thinking, and you get what you tolerate. What does that mean to you? You get what you tolerate. So I'll bring that back up again. There's a couple things we're going to talk about here today. That's one I want you to think on as we're going through all this process. And in this world of uncertainty, as they say, what are you certain about? I mean, some people might be certain their businesses are going to close. Others might be certain that, hey, I got an opportunity to move forward, move up, take care of business. Others might be looking to, learn a new skill, craft, even switch vocations. And that's cool. Now's the time to do it. And like when they say 2020, I really believe that they're going to look at that, and this was the era of uncertainty in a sense. But what were those that stepped up certain about? I mean, there's nothing concrete in life. We all know that. So I just wanted to share that with you. And as we get into this, so we'll just kind of think about that for a little bit and let that kind of brew. With that, one of the things I always ask is, how many times a day do you think a business person, an educator, a business owner, a CEO, a CFO, a salesperson, a parent, a professional athlete, hear that infamous objection centered around COVID-19? How many of y'all encounter that? Is anybody? Is it just me? Am I the only guy out here in Facebook Nation that, deals with that day in and day out? That's something to think about. Again, I'll bring that to the forefront and ask that question. How many times a day does a person, it could be an educator, it could be a business owner, a CEO, CFO, when you're talking about business owners, whatever, a salesperson, could be anybody out there. How many times you think something, there's an objection to whatever it is they're doing and that COVID thing creeps in? Okay. And then with that, anybody have any bright ideas out there? How do you handle this objection? There's no right or wrong per se, because let's face it, this is the first time we've ever dealt with something like this, and this is affecting everybody. So, some people are geeking up because, maybe they're not getting the sales they want. Maybe their business isn't growing and developing the way they want it to. And then some companies are going furlough crazy out there. That's the big thing right now. We're going to furlough you where you get to keep some of your bennies. And then after that, maybe in December, January, then we're going to deep six you and say adios. I mean, these are all things that happen. Um, and while I'm ranting here, yes, that's where I'm from and that's who I am. And feel free to call me. But, that's why I go back to my mantra. And it's this, winning is my assembly line. Helping people grow and develop is my automobile. Yeah, you can fill me up with octane, whatever. But that's the way I look at things now. Um, and that's my approach. So I'm sharing that again. I probably will every time I get on here. But let's take a look at something else, which I think is interesting. And I'm kind of going to go up here and excuse me. There's a couple things I want to share. Uh, Here's something else. Does your philosophy determine your income? Or does the economy determine your income? Gee, I wonder who said that. Philosophy determines your income, not the economy. That's how it was put back in the day. If anybody knows, oh, we have a comment. So I'm going to hey, yes, okay. Ron Goodwin, most of what we should be doing because of COVID are things we should have been doing all along. And that is the point. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is so true. You ever hear airlines, they tell you how clean their planes are now, or buses, or any type of public transportation, or facilities, arenas, and they're telling you how clean everything. Yesterday, okay, I partook of worship for a long time. And what um, Ron is talking about, and this is going to be touchy for some of you that are Orthodox, but I'm going to bring this up here. Um, they have social distancing when you walk in. You have to sign up. You have to give your name in advance. And that's a great point, Ron. Thank you. And we're going to touch on that some more. And so I go in there and I have to have my mask on. I have to have my hands sanitized. I have to have my temperature taken, and then I have to stand 6 feet apart. I go up. Before you go in church, you light a candle, so forth. You have to keep your distance that way. Uh, Ron can probably relate to this, what I'm talking about. So now I go in there and I go to sit. Well, I go to sit with my family, but I can't because there's too many people. So I have to sit in the pew ahead of me. Now, this is the fun part of this. We go through this entire process. We're all sitting out there with masks on. There's three priests. They're up there doing the liturgy. They don't have masks on until, and I'll tell you when, until they give the sacrament. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm just questioning something here. So I go through all these processes, excuse my rant, and then when it's time for the sacrament, then they put on a mask. But here's the deal. And they social distance and all that, but there's one spoon out of that chalice that goes into everybody's mouth. Now, I don't know from a healthcare professional what you think about that, but that's kind of odd. That kind of struck me as kind of odd yesterday, just thinking about it, not complaining, just being observant. So thought I'd throw that out. And, if anybody wants to chime in, feel free. But this thing's affecting a lot of things. So getting back to Ron's point, doing things that we should have been doing all along. Yeah. And that is the point. Like as I make my calls, like today, I brought that up about COVID-19, and that made guys think, regardless of their title or position, they're like, wow, I'd like to know more about that. But it's nothing new or different. I mean, yes, going through this process is as far as what we're encountering right now, because we've never done it before. But when you look at it in its purest form, what Ron's talking about, these are all things we should have been doing. And you can get into like simply washing your hands. You can look at social distancing. You can look at very simple, basic etiquette things like not talking with food in your mouth and you're spewing on people. Or some people get really emotional and they spray on people without food in their mouth. So, I mean, we could go through the whole gamut. We could talk about personal health hygiene, taking care of yourself. It's been stated time and time again. You got to take care of you before you can take care of others. And that is so true. But, you got to allocate the time to do that. And now is the time for everybody, like virtually. Everybody's talking about, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to get involved in this? And it's not going away, because right now you can't travel and do the things you used to be able to do and sit down face to face and ask me how I know, because I call on companies where people can't go out, manufacturers, reps, or whoever, and talk to the guy face to face unless they're going to repair a piece of equipment. That's just not how it's going down. Yeah, look at Ron here. The only thing constant is change. Always new normal. And that is so true. Speaking of which, change, and that leads me to a great segue, Ron, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. Um, I am going to share something else here. We're talking about change. And just let me share this with you. I've got to get this. By asking, you receive so little. By serving, you receive so much. Who said that? Okay, real quick, Jim Rohn. All right. Now, when Ron was talking about change, let me just show you this and share it with you. Emotional security. Each of us must develop two critical abilities: the ability to live with change. Now, Ron just mentioned change and uncertainty, and the ability to delay immediate gratification for the sake of long range goals. Let me read that one again. Each of us must develop two critical abilities: the ability to live with change and uncertainty, and the ability to delay immediate gratification for the sake of long range goals. Now, Ron Goodwin, Goodwin Graphics here, is a business owner. And I'm sure he's seen a lot of things change graphically from the era of screen printing to digital to what's going on right now today. There's so many things. It's just constant change, change, change. And you either change or you're going to perish. But the thing I love about this change in this quote, and I'll tell you who it's from, is he says, delay immediate gratification for the sake of long range goals. Some people have a real problem with delayed gratification. They want it now because everything's instant. You put it in a microwave, bammo, and then it happens. So that's not how it works. Even when you start out a business, you could ask Ron, call him up, check him out on his website, wherever, and he could tell you probably a lot of interesting stories from whence he first started to today, even what he's dealing with today as a business owner. But the person that's made this quote, Dr. Dennis Waitley. And, neat guy, unique way of spelling the name Dennis. My brother's name's Dennis, but he spells it with one N, and that is correct. And if you just came in here, again, I'm just going to read it again because it says emotional security. Each of us must develop two critical abilities: the ability to live with change and uncertainty, and the ability to delay immediate gratification for the sake of long range goals. That's beautiful. When you think about it, that's life, man. That's how you're going to have to handle it. And again, that's by Dennis Waitley. So if anybody else is out there wants to chime in, feel free. I'm at that point where we're at that bewitching hour here at Mark's message, from Peachtree Corners. And what we're talking about is, I started this out. If anybody's joining late, You get what you tolerate. What does that mean? You get what you tolerate. And, how many of us allocate time, invest time as opposed to spend time? Um, some of us ride a TV yeehaw like a cowboy on a horse. And I've heard this expression, excuse me, I'm going to ride your ass like Zorro. Um, but some people, they kind of disengage, disconnect, even when they're done working. And there's other things you can be doing. That's why I do this. I'm starting to really enjoy this. Some people probably are thinking still, hey man, that Gasser dude, I don't know, man. I don't know if he blows, if he's any good. I don't know where he's getting his material from. But now is the time. And I think, what Ron, when he brought that up here, and I'm just going to go back to his comment again. He said, the only thing constant is change, always new normal, and you hear that term right now. And change is not going to go away. I mean, you can't stop the clock. The clock's ticking. However old you are on this earth, you can mathematically deduce a fairly good guesstimate. Insurance companies do this all the time when you purchase, health or life insurance. They're always guesstimating how long one's going to live. But and my meter's clicking and ticking, and you have to develop that sense of urgency. And with that, you have to understand it's not going to happen overnight. Some people struggle with that. And if you do, chime in. Let me know how you handle it. So going back here, I'm about done. But as always, you know what I'm going to tell you here from Peachtree Corners, Georgia, the peachiest place in the planet. And Ron Goodwin, thank you so much. I'm going to give Ron another shout out. Goodwin Graphics. That's the guy you need to go to. And if you don't, I can kind of show you why. Ron, I hope you don't get mad at me or with me, but I'm just going to pop this up here. Let's see if I can find it. And that's not it, but we'll kind of go down here and yeah, um, this is it right here. So there we are. I'm back. And I got one more thing for us, like I said, be a leader, be a friend. Most important of all, excuse my rant, and I was jumping around here, be a service. And we are at that point where I am going to share another quote. And here's the quote. And I felt it imperative to share this with you because of what everybody's going through today. Some, not all, but this is how some people feel. When defeat overtakes a man or a woman, the easiest and most logical thing to do is to quit. That's exactly what the majority of people do. I'm going to read that again. And now I'm reading it for myself. When defeat overtakes a man or a woman, the easiest and most logical thing to do is to quit. That's exactly what the majority of people do. Has anybody ever lost a sales? Has anybody ever started a business and failed? Has anybody ever failed a subject in school? Has anybody not achieved their financial goal? Has anybody, let's see, what else could we fail at? Failed your first time taking your driving exam. Have you failed at that? I mean, I could go on and on. Have you ever lost a baseball game, football game, basketball game? Right? So, do you think those guys quit? I mean, when you look at athletes, that's what they're conditioned to do. They take risks, they go for it, they understand what they're involved in, and yeah, they understand about delayed gratification. That's why they work out like a bunch of fanatics on the off season, but they don't quit. But why is it like you pick up the phone, maybe 3 calls and you're done, or you try something new? It could be a new task, a new skill, a new technology, whatever the case may be, and you're not that well versed, good at it, so to speak. And so you're like, man, forget about it. Or you listen to your friends, so called friends, your sphere of influence, and they say, you shouldn't be doing that. Just like, hey, Mark, you should not be doing live stream. Well, I'm not going away. So I'm just going to keep banging away at this thing. But the gentleman that made this quote or made this statement, and you know who I'm going to say, Napoleon Hill. It's a great quote. And sometimes, when you're working out, you're exercising, you're hurting. I know what that feels like at my age. And man, you want to quit. You just want to stop. But, as they say, the pain is temporary. So, you move forward and you do what you got to do. There are people that die from diseases. There are loved ones we lose. We lose a lot of things because nature's smarter than people when you break it down to its purest form, but you don't retire from life. You know, you adapt, you improvise, you overcome, you reinvent yourself, you do what you got to do. So, with that, everyone, I just want to say thank you for those that joined me this evening. And this is about the time you'll see me out there. Mark's Message, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, the peachiest place on the planet. And again, be a leader, be a friend, and most important of all, ladies and gentlemen, be of service. And always, always, always in baseball terms, for me and for you, keep swinging for the fences and let's together, boom, knock it out of the park. I will see you tomorrow night. Have a good one, everybody.